About to do another segment, part two conversation regarding Bitcoin, decentralized currencies, and all of the above, I guess. Just sorry. Come on, Daddy, don't you fall asleep. My friend Ian. Finally answer. The snow was heavy and the sky was deep, and death was looking for a dancer. Alright. Let's see if he answers. Hello? Hello?
Hey, you there?
Yeah.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
That's okay. Do you have a video feed?
No, I do on my laptop, but that's not up and running right now.
I don't know how you would see me anyway if it's not. It's only an audio chat.
Oh.
I think you gotta invite people to groups to do video. I don't know. I'm really new. This Gmail thing's a new thing for me. I don't usually use it. I just became a member.
Yeah, I liked the video. It came out pretty good, I think.
I thought it was great. I just think, yeah, I need to get it out to the right audience. Yeah, so we'll record a part two. You can just go on, touch on the points that you wanted to that you didn't like really get to cover for the last one, if you remember exactly what those were. I had a few questions.
Not particularly. I'm better off at just like
going
with it.
Going with the
If
flow.
you have questions, that'll probably spur a memory.
It'll spur another set of questions.
Yeah.
So my question was, like how they do exchange rates for, say, a dollar, like a U.S. dollar is 2 pounds, like the English pound is still, well, I don't know, that changes sometimes. Exchange rate for like the rupee or like the yen or like there's like all these different currencies. How does Bitcoin tie into all of that? Is there a way that you can find an exchange rate, or is it just consistent, constant, and doesn't change?
Are you recording now?
Yeah.
Alright, let's restart and then just start with that question and we'll go from there.
You want me to just
question.
Start right on the question?
Yeah, just start a recording and then you could do like an intro, like a continuation or.
Well, I just did the intro. I did an intro before I called you, and then I called you up, and I was recording before that, but I had some music and stuff, and I don't know.
Alright, sounds good. So yeah, just restart and ask the question, I guess.
Question. Is there an exchange rate for Bitcoin and, like, trying to get to, like, the root of this question. How does Bitcoin relate in terms of its relation to other currencies? Like, how does it exchange through, and who determines that, and or not who, but how is it determined, and what exactly, like, does it fluctuate or change ever?
Yeah, the exchange rate is pretty crazy because that's what's getting a lot of attention recently. Because a few months ago, one Bitcoin was worth
$100.
$13.
Oh, what? How did it go up so much then? Recently.
Well, recently, especially in 2013, it was.
Why 2013?
For some reason, I don't know. It got a lot of press. A lot of it from the economic troubles that's going on in the world.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
It started getting more and more press. And then,
well, I'm assuming that means underground press, like independent news networks.
some of that, but also in the mainstream.
Oh,
But
wouldn't
maybe it
expect
was
it.
just like a switch in the consciousness, and people were ready to like understand this kind of thing because it was needed.
Do you think that um, when people started to notice it, or people, what do you think that the numbers that are coming out about the economy, do you think that they are accurate in juxtaposition to or in relation to the actual economic numbers and points, or do you think that that's inaccurate and that the press is pushing
I
false
think,
stories? Do you think that Bitcoin is in any way um, tied into the economy? Do you think it's improving the economy? Do you think it's um, altering it in any way, or do you think it's just its own economy and that would probably go undetected to the news medium of the um, collective, like the majority, I guess?
I think the news is trying to make Bitcoin part of other economies, trying to make it seem like it's an investment within the dollar.
Right.
It's really like it's its own economy. It's its own.
Thing I was thinking was I think it's too hard for people to understand, and that's why it's not going to become more popular. That was another question I was going to ask. Do you think that the uh, the program is too sophisticated for the common man to wrap his head around, so that it can actually be indoctrinated into the yeah, into the cultural, like,
Well, it'll get easier and easier as it goes because the software is still really new. It's still a really early version of the software. So right now, it takes some technical know-how to understand it and to use it.
so it'll probably
But
take the best and the brightest that do understand it to lead the rest of us, because those are the ones that are probably more,
exactly,
understanding and willing to spread the word about it anyway, is what you're saying.
yeah, the original people who were like latched onto Bitcoin at the start were people who understood what it meant for the world.
Right. They probably
And
were
so,
like super psyched about it.
yeah, and so they realized, because, like I was saying in the last part, the concept of cryptocurrency has been around since the 90s.
Hmm.
Bitcoin is the first kind of like real fruition of it that works properly and sustains itself.
Have there been any other attempts at a cryptocurrency that were mildly successful in comparison? And did they? Is there any history or record of that in a historical framing,
I don't know
past decade or
in
so?
particular. I don't know of any in particular, but when Bitcoin came out, a lot of other cryptocurrencies popped up
Oh,
with by using the Bitcoin source code. So
right.
there's one out there called Litecoin,
Litecoin,
Lite coin.
like Bud
That one's
Light,
trading at about
Miller Lite.
$4 per Litecoin right now, and it's a bit different. It has a little bit different variables. It uses a different algorithm,
Oh.
so it has some different variables, but it's still based on the concept of cryptography and mathematics, like Bitcoin.
So what exactly give me an example of what cryptography is. Like, I don't know if that's kind of a off the bat question, but
A little bit, because I don't fully understand it myself, but I should be able to word it,
you
the
should,
concept.
because
To
you have an
understand the
account. I mean, you have
concept.
like you have a Bitcoin wallet online. I understand. I just started one. I don't know if it's done uploading or whatever, but because I have a bunch of money stashed away somewhere. I have like bonds and stuff that's like maturing right now, and also the money I'm earning, like just work wise, like I haven't really accumulated a great amount of excess, like abundant, like money or anything. So if I could just switch, I'm just thinking this is probably a really economically smart thing, because if you can transfer your money to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's value goes skyrockets, like it has, you said, in this past year. it could generate a lot more wealth than what essentially the centralized market is considering its wealth and its liquidity. It's um, they say that the dollar like gets bigger and smaller and based on whatever variable income outcome of resources, blah 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 blah. I'm thinking if cryptocurrencies could probably be the new thing. You know, people trade in their dollars.
It's definitely here to stay. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin might not last. Who knows what could happen? It's kind of like the first generation.
It's a test pilot. So like, what if people traded in? Like what if a lot of people got into it and just it became the new currency and people could buy like people's dollars like they trade in like $50 or whatever and get like a 1 Bitcoin, or say for instance it goes really high and like it's like $200 for a 1 Bitcoin and people start investing all their money and then it keeps going up. How would the value of Bitcoin like take all the excess of that and convert it into some other form of abundance? Does it actually, I mean, does the program actually create like revenue the same way like we take it, money goes into a business, that money goes somewhere else to a different outlet where resources are, I mean, is it just a completely different system? Am I just missing something completely that like there's some process going on that's like totally mysterious and unknown? Because you said something about it's almost magic. Magic is not a very popular subject, and maybe if it's magic, then that's the reason it's so misunderstood. Maybe it's almost a shamanic type thing, right?
Well, people refer to it as magical internet money, kind of offhandedly as a joke.
But it works. Like you say, I could buy stuff with it.
More empowerment kind of magic, where you're not at the will of another organization. What Bitcoin does is gives you the power to be your own bank.
Yeah.
And so instead of putting your money in a bank and then that bank investing it in whatever companies they want, you have control and you invest it into whatever you want.
Yeah.
So you can build a business if you want to support, someone on the internet or pay someone. You can pay them in Bitcoins instead of dollars.
Yeah.
Because you believe that Bitcoins are more useful.
It's more direct, probably.
Yeah, because there's no sense. You don't have to swipe your credit card. I mean, it's pretty much like cash, but the cash isn't tied to the U.S. government. The Bitcoin isn't tied to any central authority. So cash is good, but if you ignore the fact that it's being used for what it's being used for these days.
It's the fundamentals of cash and how the U.S. dollar is really just something it's not abused, but it's just kind of like wasted. I think it's a waste. Yeah. It's a wasteful. Because I'm thinking in terms of economics, in terms of sustainability. How does a cryptocurrency maintain the value of other resources in relation to those direct resources? Thinking of like I mean, you can call me old-fashioned, but I still think that precious metals have a lot of worth.
Oh yeah.
Just in
definitely
their durability and some of like just the things you can do with precious metals, but
in that sense, you could look at Bitcoin as a digital precious metal because it's good to store gold, but you can't really pay someone. I'm on the West Coast. I couldn't pay someone in Florida in gold. Well, I could, but I would have to send it in the mail, and I have to maybe like break a chunk off of the gold and weigh it out and make sure it's the right value.
Yeah.
So in today's world, the digital world, it's much more convenient to have a cryptocurrency, which is like gold. It's just digitally distributed.
Yeah. How do the implications occur when, say, the internet like what if all the Bitcoins were somehow I don't know, there was no way to maintain the Bitcoins and they just went like missing or something, like the data went missing?
Well, the data it's a redundant system. So you download the Bitcoin wallet and it's You know how it says it's updating or it's synchronizing?
So like we said before, you have to have technology to have it.
Yeah. It
So
exists completely digitally as it is now.
so what about third world countries that don't have access to technology? Like, is there
Well,
still a way that you can
a lot of
manifest or
a lot of people in third world countries actually have more access to internet than they do to telephones or to cable TV or
yeah?
to stuff like that because internet they can use satellites
Internet's not going away. Like it's kind
yeah,
of
and wireless networks are kind of just almost everywhere. You don't need wires. I mean, the
yeah
new age is wireless, and sooner or later we'll have systems that are powerful enough to reach for miles and miles out where you can get Wi-Fi.
yeah like
So
radio Wi-Fi or something to that effect.
yeah, I mean Wi-Fi and radio, but possibly new technologies that can extend those frequencies to even further ranges. But another thing is this Bitcoin is available in more places than things like PayPal are or credit cards are.
Yeah.
So it actually empowers third world countries because they could then trade and do global business with other people without having to go through a banking system and sign contracts and all this stuff that they make you do with language
Yeah.
to get you under their spell, sort of say.
But how do we know that since Bitcoin isn't a physical thing, that it isn't somehow less economical and less sustainable than money or currency? Since money and currency is physical, it is, you know, I'm not sure if every dollar is accounted for, but like it's physically you hold it in your hand and you can buy stuff. Like even if it is undermined by the Federal Reserve and all of that stuff. So is there maybe just like a physical type of current cryptocurrency that could not, that wouldn't be able. I mean, I guess if as long as it's physical, there's no way to for it not to be abused and mishandled and corrupted and you know. So I
There's
guess
people right now developing. Well, if you have a smartphone, you can get Bitcoin on your smartphone, and
yeah,
literally all you do is
it's like
hold it up.
credit. It's like a form of credit. You're saying?
Not really, because
No.
you're transferring bitcoins, and the credit system is um is probably more imaginary than bitcoins.
Yeah.
Because bitcoins take a tremendous amount of computing power to create.
Yeah, that's
And the
true.
only way you would ever lose a bitcoin is if all the hard drives
Crashed.
in the
Like
world crashed or got wiped or something.
somebody hacked it or the Google. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, that's yeah, that's yeah.
So it's
You answered
a
the
very
question.
redundant system that has a lot of fail safes, and it would take a lot to destroy Bitcoin because it was built that way. It'd be like trying to destroy BitTorrent.
Yeah, it's got a lot of hard backing.
Yeah.
Those backing. What am I trying to say? Like they have a big driver system that backs it all up. So it's
Well,
that's almost like the.
there's no one place that has all the data. You have it. I have it. Anyone who uses Bitcoin is part of that network and is perpetuating the code that
Yeah.
it's kind of like a ledger, a public ledger of all the Bitcoins.
Public. Oh yeah, like a public like a voucher. Well, not even a voucher. Well, it's kind of like a voucher.
In a sense, yeah, it's more like a
It's,
transference of ownership of this. It's just a tool in a sense. Money is just a tool to.
yeah, it's accounted for. It's a computing code of.
Yeah.
From what we know so far, the languages that are available, the computing codex that is at our disposal as of late, to that degree, we know that it is accounted for and it is, you know, unanimous and everybody can kind of relate through it. That it's pushing forward, moving things forward in a way that certain people can't communicate or can't digress their values for centralized currencies. It's just different. It's just like evolved.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind of like
clear. It's not
how
messy. It's
currency
not.
should
It's
be
not. Yeah.
in the first place.
Yeah. It's like not. It's more efficient.
Yeah,
All
much
right.
more efficient and safer, and unable to be manipulated.
Yeah, and you can't be robbed. You can't be,
Well, you can be robbed. I mean,
well, there's hackers.
Password. If you're not careful, just like if you're not careful with your gold bars, they could be robbed
with your
too.
social security number,
Yeah.
etc.
I mean, it takes a certain amount of responsibility on the individual to keep their bitcoins safe.
Well, the responsibility proves that it is a true currency and that it does maintain itself. All right, another question. This is probably the last question because it's getting a little bit to 20 minutes or so, unless you have more specific topics to touch upon. I was gonna ask, is there like any philosophies or like literacy about alternate currencies that go on inside of a system that is perpetuating its own national currency? Is there any figureheads or
Or has like government created electronic currencies?
No, I mean philosophically, there's Gandhi is like a philosophical pusher of nonviolence and Buddhism and whatever he did, and then there's is there any type thing for that somebody wrote about it so that it's almost like a translation for everybody to is there anything like that, or is that just nothing like that?
Yeah, it's a philosophy rooted in kind of the internet and what the internet stands for, which is.
But there's no one figure there's no.
No, there's no one person that talks about just.
Prominent. There's no. Who am I trying to think of?
There's no voice to the movement.
Yeah, there's no role figurehead there's no Teddy Roosevelt for Bitcoin. No. There's no
Not at all, no. If anything, it's the guy who created it, who's known as Satoshi Nakamoto, and that was just a pseudonym. No one knows who he really is, or.
So he created it anonymously. He created the system anonymously, just for the sake of.
He created it anonymously, yeah, and to subvert the structures that are in place right now. He was very opposed to central banking systems, and he commented on the bailouts that were happening. He was around for a year or so when he released it, but after that he disappeared, and no one ever knew who he was or where he was from or even what his real name was.
So he was I'm assuming Asian, Japanese descent. Oriental.
Maybe some people think he might be Russian, but he went under the name of Satoshi.
Yeah.
And I think it was good to remain anonymous because, there really is no point to focus on the person who wrote the code.
Because I guess that kind of contradicts the whole idea that you put names to something that's going to give credit, and credit is what gives way to the whole financial. Financial Rick roll and Rickamarole in here too, and this and that, etc., etc. Same old. It's something new. Bitcoin. Everyone get out there. Get a Bitcoin. Yeah. I'm gonna get a Bitcoin because this seems like kind of pretty cutting edge. And it seems like most I almost want to ask around because I'm pretty sure all my Facebook friends or all the people I'm in contact with are totally in the dark about this, and it's.
Well, I'm sure people will be hearing about it soon enough.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's more about the concept of cryptocurrency, because Bitcoin is kind of becoming that figurehead of. It's being put on a pedestal.
It's an idea, and the concept of cryptocurrency is something that should be more ubiquitous to
what's happening,
yeah, to the movement, to the new 20th century, well, it's 21st century, but the new millennium.
Yeah.
If there is any kind of movement at all right this time, this is probably going to be I think it's going to be a big part of it, but I mean, who can tell, really?
It already is, I think. I mean, for example, I'll give you a good one with WikiLeaks. Were you familiar with what happened with WikiLeaks?
Sort of. It rings a bell, but it's not like things take off and have massive influence, and people don't really notice until later on. So I kind of agree with you in the sense that it could be taking off tremendously, and it just hasn't. Maybe for like 100 years or 50 years or however long it takes, people won't really see the you know, full spectrum of how it's spread abundance through this. Well, the America's in a recession right now, so it's really hard to tell the ups and downs from anything to anything from anything. um, it's just not. There's no real efficiency and abundance that we need to start things moving, and this is probably one of the tools or one of the gears in the machine, so to speak. That
Yeah, it definitely is, because what we're doing now in America is just printing money.
printing more money. Yeah.
And then wasting it on war or whatever else.
Well, for entertainment, to sustain the
football games,
to sustain the capitalist nature, so that when those people die, they will have completely taken advantage of everybody else and just had their own, own unique life experience at the expense of everyone else. To really never be to just be covered over and never really it's just sucks.
Yeah, another part of it is, we're enabling it. We just have to stop using the system, and
People
you said, Bitcoin is a tool.
It's a first step to not being passive.
Yeah, to walk away from it and say, all right, well, I can buy stuff online because I have my own currency. I don't need to use Visa or MasterCard or PayPal. This guy in, Ecuador will take my Bitcoins and send me something of, a service or a good, because he also believes that he doesn't want to use a bank or a government to tell him what he can buy and what he can't buy.
And you'll remember that person and that name, and that you were together in a movement that didn't let things go on, that you were observing continue in the direction they were. That's the power. It's the power of consciousness. It's consciousness. It's just activism, awareness, etc. That's cool. Anything else you want to talk about? Because it's getting into 27 minutes, and I'm trying to at least come to a sort of a conclusion type thing, but not that I'm trying to wrap it up so quick.
I would suggest that if you get into Bitcoin, if anyone does, to understand it on a conceptual level at least. You don't have to understand the details, but you obviously understand it.
It's the outline.
What's the implication of it is.
It's just an opening to a whole new set of possibilities, and to put it simply.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch. It's good to talk about it, because people won't about it any other way unless there's people talking about it.
Right. People have to catch on.
Usually, if you hear about it on the news, you're going to get a biased viewpoint.
Right. Well, you never know how biased. I mean, it's hard to measure exactly how biased a viewpoint is. I don't know. I think leading by example is probably just the best. So, in that closing, close to 30 minutes, this is part 2 of the Bitcoin overview and discussion.